What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I am your host, Chris Raybon. It's NFL Week 17. We got player projections for you. As always, I'll be momentarily joined by one of the most accurate fantasy rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Koerner. Quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content is available right now over on fantasylabs.com. Fantasy Labs NFL includes in-season rankings, waiver wire and DFS tips, and more. Make sure to use code FLEX20 for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. Happy holidays, Koerner. Who we got for the Cardio Kings for week 16, which are, for anyone unfamiliar, the guys who ran the most amount of routes without a single target.
Yeah, happy holidays, Raybon. And yeah, the Cardio Kings last week, this is so much fun because tight end, it was Noah Gray, 14 routes, no targets. Boring. But the Cardio King of the week was Isaiah Bond with 20 routes, 0 targets, but he had 21 receiving yards thanks to a lateral by Corley. So a bit of a strange stat line where he had like over 1.0 yards per route run without even seeing a target.
Yeah, I mean, shouts to him because he had more yards than Cedric Tillman, who I bet the under on, and somehow still cashed, even though he was starting role and managed fewer yards than Isaiah Bond without a target somehow. Who I thought was actually going to be more of that number 2 receiver. I thought he had looked good the week before, but I mean he's been all over the place. Like that Browns team. Yeah. Week to week is just real tough to project and with the roles and it's just a mess. But I guess it ain't Jerry Jeudy catching passes there. But we'll get into our top 5 guys. We're high and low on at each position and throw out some props, which is always fun. All right, top 5 quarterbacks, week 17 championship, fantasy championship week. Who we got?
Yeah, so number 1, I have Drake May. Then I have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, and Trevor Lawrence.
Ooh, I got, Drake May number 1, Josh Allen number 2, Joe Burrow number 3, Trevor Lawrence number 4, and Brock Purdy number 5. Whew, Dak is number 6, so Purdy, I guess, coming off that 5 touchdown game, he's popping here. But, I mean, he looked really good. Dak, obviously the great matchup, and then Stafford's right on both of those guys' heels. A lot more pocket passes, I feel like in this week's. Maybe it's because Hurts, Jackson, Dart, all kind of dropping off here. But who are you high on for week 17?
Yeah, so I'm high on Trevor Lawrence, and I will say, heading into the season, I thought Drake May and Caleb Williams were my late round quarterback potential league winners. And May certainly has been. Caleb has been up and down lately. It's been a little bit disappointing, but I know you were high on Trevor Lawrence. I was too, but I've been high on Lawrence for a couple of years now, so I cooled off a bit.
It was ugly. It was so ugly.
But the point remains that Liam Cohen, it took some time, but we're starting to see Trevor Lawrence just really thrive in this scheme, and he's just been on an unreal run right now. These last 2 games have been incredible. He had like a historic game 2 weeks ago against the Jets, and then kept it rolling last week against the Broncos, which is, a really tough matchup. So he has 10 total touchdowns the last 2 games. And, I think adding Jacoby Myers before the trade deadline was a great move by them. Helped them kind of replace Travis Hunter. And he's been, huge for them. So this week, it's finals week. He gets to face a Colts defense that just allowed Brock Purdy to throw for 5 touchdowns. So this is, I think, a great spot for him. And he opens up the week inside my top 5. And the bonus here is he's playing indoors. It's at Indy. So, weather's not going to be an issue. Whereas, a lot of games are outdoors. We're in late December. We could have some weather this week. So Trevor Lawrence, if you've had him, congrats. And, certainly the past couple weeks, he probably helped you reach the finals. But I think, this week, I think he's a solid, high-end QB1 option right now.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I was impressed. Doing that against the Denver Broncos is pretty impressive there. I'm high on Tyler Shuck this week. I think it's like a borderline QB1. It sounds crazy, but Going up against the Titans defense here. I think last week it was kind of predictable. I kind of was looking for the Chiefs to just implode against the Titans. Figured the Titans would actually get right here, but the Saints have been playing hard and playing well with Shuck at quarterback. He gives you some rushing upside. He gives you a pretty decently efficient passing game, which the Saints really haven't had. And, Olave's playing well. Juwan Johnson's playing well. So this Titans defense still not good. I mean, the Chiefs were down on like the Oladokun at quarterback. Minshew started off I think it was 3 of 8 before he even got hurt, like 3 of 10, something crazy too. It was just not good. But I think the Saints will give the Titans problems that Kansas City couldn't here. So I like Shuck as a borderline QB1 option, which I don't know how we got here, but we're here.
Yeah, last week I went 6-6. None of my bets were close, the wins or losses. I had under 31.5 pass attempts, and I think he cleared that by halftime. They had, it looks like, the second highest pass rate over expected of the entire season. Wow. So they're just letting it rip. It's actually it's the second highest. The highest was the Eagles randomly in week 5 when I had Jalen Hurts under pass attempts. So I have this weird thing where teams randomly just throw a ton when they have the under pass attempts. But yeah, he's looked great and he has that rushing upside. So yeah, I think he's a high end QB2 option as well.
Yeah, Saints, I mean, they have no running backs at this point either. We'll see if,
Taysom Hill.
Right, yeah, I was going to say, we'll see if Kamara comes back, but I don't think he's coming back. It seems like one of those things that I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It seems like they were just going to shut him down. Maybe they're bringing him back now, but they got Audric Estime, I guess. I guess that's somebody. Who are you low on at quarterback?
I'm low on Jackson Dart, who is another quarterback I said had, league-winning upside if and when he finally took over as the starter. And, he certainly had QB1 upside for most of the season. But last week was brutal, man. He only threw for 33 yards against the Vikings. I think, a lot of that had to do with the wind last week. But, he only rushed 2 times for 7 yards. So it wasn't like, he was just leaning on his rushing upside. That's why he didn't throw for many yards. So I think, obviously he's going to bounce back here against the Raiders, but it's not good timing to have him coming off his worst game of the season. Because, if he's being told to maybe dial back his rushing just because he has been getting injured so much, that's going to be a massive blow to his fantasy value. So I think it's going to be much, much tougher to trust him as a QB1. And, his rushing upside is kind of a blessing and a curse because anytime he has been using his legs, he's been getting hurt and, having to go to the blue tent and, potentially getting pulled from the game. So he's just kind of a really dicey play this week for the finals. He's my QB 16. So if you want to shoot for upside, he's a solid play, but I just think this is a really tricky week to bank on him in a must-win game. So I'm much, much lower on Dart than I have been pretty much ever since he took over. So yeah, I consider more of a mid-range QB2. I would trust Tyler Shook over him right now. That's kind of where I am with my initial ranks anyway.
Yeah, it's tough because the Giants came out. I want to say it was the first 10, 15 plays. I don't know if they threw once. They just run. No, it was just run. So, but this is indoors. So I wonder if it just goes back to normal. I mean, the Raiders have just been so bad. I feel like it's hard to downgrade them too much. So, he's a really he's a tough projection for this week. But I'm trying not to go too recency bias with him just because this is an indoor versus the outdoor blitz heavy type of situation. But I'm low on Justin Herbert this week. He's my QB 19. Just a matchup against Houston. Don't love it. Dallas, you're a great call on Herbert last week for you. You were high on him, and he destroyed that Dallas defense that doesn't really have anything to play for. But Houston, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for him. We've seen this in the past where there was confidence in Herbert last year coming into that playoff game against the Texans, and I mean everything just imploded for him. And I just think this Charger O-line is still going to be an issue. And, they probably will be down Kamani Vidal too. So that puts a lot on Hampton's plate. They're losing one of those, short range kind of guys that can get going. Gadsden hasn't really been as involved. So I think this Charger offense is still going to be, it's kind of shifted to more of a defensive team. That's what Greg Roman has said. Like, he said, I think he actually had a quote like, let's get medieval on him or something like that. So, like we've seen all season long that like performance against Dallas is not indicative necessarily of performance against most of the other defense in the league, especially not a team like Houston, who I think just pass rush wise is going to be able to get home on this Charger O-line. It's going to be a conservative game plan. So don't really trust Herbert here. Would definitely go Stroud over him. Stroud's been playing pretty well lately. So I think I like the road quarterback in that one. Okay, let's go with a prop. What do we got? Last week was the Rivers one. So I'm up at quarterback. See, do we want to go back there this week? I should probably go Dart. Let's see.
Jeff Driscoll prop.
Oh man, yeah, I was about to say we spoke it into existence. I forget what pod we were on, just like bullshitting about
Jeff Driscoll. We were talking about Riley Leonard. We were talking about Riley Leonard, and I called him Jeff Driscoll, and then you were defending Driscoll, and then you're like, he's 1-10.
Yeah. There we go. Got him a job. Got him. So I like to think Jeff Driscoll shot. If you need a new agent, bro, you
could be his agent. I'll be Tim Boyle's agent. Tim Boyle whisperer.
What is it? Is that the Matt Patricia Lions? I think it is, right? I think they were both on the Matt Patricia Lions. I want to say.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think. Because there are some uncertain situations, so I don't want to go like a Willis or a Snoop Huntley or somebody like that. So I think let's go Jackson Dart because he is the hardest to project. Yeah, let's go Jackson Dart passing yards against the Raiders. This is a tough one. Let's see. So he had 33 last week. He had his medians around $190-ish, $195. Let's go 192.5 Jackson Dart. So right around his normal median for the season passing yards.
Yeah, I have it right at 190. I think that's a good line. I think, my problem with him is the lack of rushing last week. That was a concern. And that kind of correlates with his passing yards. So if he's not going to be using his legs as much, probably more likely to go over. What's the spread on that game? Let me
1.5 now. The Raiders are now favored. I think they started as 1.5 underdog. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't know if they should be, honestly. I think the initial line was probably a little more correct. Or maybe it's probably like a pick-em-ish.
Yeah. I'm gonna. And their offensive line is all questionable. Unbelievable.
Oh, Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas.
In the center, yeah.
It was a hammy injury. Oh man, that might mean he scrambles more, but then more likely he gets an early exit. What a disaster! Again, how could you feel confident starting him finals week? Whew. Yeah, I'll go. I'll go over barely.
Ah, damn! I was hoping you kind of would go under because I do think like just based on like the wind and the blitz heaviness,
right?
Versus like this defense, which is, it's the Raiders. He'll probably throw, but Thomas has just had a huge impact on the Giants, so that is something that is a concern. For just the offense in general, and who knows what they're trying to do? This is like both of these teams are in play for that number one pick, so who knows how that's gonna go? It's just a weird game. And I think is it at 4:00 or like the 4 p.m. window?
Yeah,
I think it is. Oh god!
And there's only 2 games in that slot, so unfortunately, we're all gonna have to be watching this game.
Yeah, there's really one game. This is like this a game would be generous.
Oh my god! There's 2 games. This game and Eagles Bills.
I wonder which one. Oh my god! Imagine you're in like the New York area and like you get the Giants Raiders game instead on your like local TV.
Oh my god! And just there's only 2 games this slate. Man!
And the NFL schedule makers have been really good this year. I I don't really like the 2-game 4 p.m. windows though. Like I feel like you need at least a third, preferably 4. I'd rather you just take it out of the 1 p.m. I know you're trying to do the red zone
or
thing.
The 10 a.m. for our
yeah.
I just hate having like so many games in that window. I like to just watch a few games at a time. But yeah, this week it's so spread out because we have 3 games on Christmas, right, and then 2 on Saturday. So just not many games to have. But yeah, just a lot stacked earlier on Sunday.
Yeah, like 2 games is like, I mean, they're lucky. Eagles is still good, but. Yeah. I mean, that would have been risky. Like, imagine if like one of those 2 teams like ended up like the Chiefs or something, just like a mess, and then it was like Giants, Raiders, and that. But no, that should be. I mean, that could be a Super Bowl preview. So that would be a good one. All right, running back top 5. Who we got?
I got Jahmyr Gibbs, CMC, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, and James Cook.
Yep, Gibbs, McCaffrey, Bijan, Cook, Taylor. So. With you there, Achan is right there too. For me, this Bucks run defense, I don't know what to do with them. Who are you high on?
I'm high on the running back that just missed the top 5. I have Ashton Genty at RB6. Yeah, like, am I that high on him? Where do you have him?
Oh no, yeah, he's my RB7. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. Oh, it's the Giants. Yeah.
See,
I don't even think about Genty most weeks. That's why I'm like.
Well, that's why I want to talk about him because I mean he's had a pretty disappointing rookie season so far. Just considering he is considered a generational talent at running back. He got picked early, but he's had a disappointing rookie season. Let's face it. A lot of that could be chalked up to just being on a bad team with a bad offensive line, leads the league in stuff rate, which you can blame on him or the offensive line. But, they have been getting him more involved in the pass game of late. And then last week, he had his best game of his career against a very good Texans defense. He had just under 190 total yards, 2 touchdowns. So, he's trending up heading into, what's a dream matchup for running backs against the Giants here, who, they've ranked dead last in rush DVOA for what I think has been the entire season. And they've allowed 8 different running backs to clear 80-plus rushing yards in the last 9 games. So, yeah, he has a lot of things going for him. I mean, if you did end up taking him in the first round, maybe you're not in a position where you're in the finals. But last week, he definitely helped teams advance. So Genty's had an up and down rookie season, and I think he's a legit mid-range RB1 heading into finals week here.
Yeah, well, man, we're here. I mean, jeez. He's consensus still has him at number 10. That's interesting because he's gonna have to move up. Looking at this matchup, the Giants have been. I think there was a momentary time when who else is a terrible defense? There's like one other team that I think was like flirting with them for that last spot. Who is it? Now it's gonna bother me. Is it Washington or is it Cincy?
Probably Cincy, right? I mean, Bengals, Bills, Giants, Washington have all been.
I think it was
Titans. Weren't the Titans for a while?
They were bad, but that was really good. They didn't have Jeffrey Simmons. Like they're not as bad as I think they're ranking.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it was Cincy, but Cincy's now number 30. Bills have been so terrible. Their defense is just not great. Period. So that Eagles matchup will be interesting. But I'm high on Chris Rodriguez Jr. I feel like I'm high on him every week, but thought it was interesting that the Commanders, even down, we're still kind of running the football. I mean, they might have no choice, and now they're at home against the Dallas defense that you really don't know what you're going to get out of this defense. I mean, it was just not been good all year. Kind of had a little bit of a reprieve when they added some pieces, got Williams in there, but still one of the worst defenses in the league. And the Commanders might go super run heavy, and that's the one thing that the Commanders have been able to do most of the year, regardless of what else is going on with that offense, is run the football. So, like Rodriguez here, still installed as that lead running back over Bill Merritt. And the thing about Rodriguez is he used to be a guy who would get like maybe like 5 routes or like you just like almost no pass game work. But now it's Merritt who's getting just like almost no pass game work. And Rodriguez is getting a decent amount. He's still probably not going to get many checkdowns or anything like that if Mariota's in there. But if it's Johnson, that could tick up. Johnson is older. He's on like his 15th team. He's not going to run the ball or pull it down a scramble quite as much. So I think Rodriguez trending up here. They love him in Washington. And Bill usually gets held out for like 2 drives, which gives the whoever, at the starting running back, if it's not him, an edge anyway. So like Rodriguez against the Cowboys this week. I think he's RB in that RB3 range. Who are we low on? Running back.
I'm low on Rico Dowdle against the Seahawks. He had a stretch there midseason where he was a legit RB1 option pretty much every week. But he's cooled off of late with, Chuba Hubbard back, and, Hubbard's been mixing in, at times. So he's been a threat to Dowdle's, workload. But now Dowdle has this brutal matchup against the Seahawks here in the finals week. The Seahawks rank first in DVOA against the run. And the Panthers are 7-point dogs. So this just could be a more pass heavy trailing game script, which also means, Hubbard might see an uptick in usage, at Dowdle's expense. So it's a tough week to be leaning on Dowdle because he's much more of a fringe RB2, RB3 option who just carries, quite a bit of risk for finals week. So much, much lower on him than I typically am. But where do you have Dowdle opening up in your ranks?
Actually, I like the Panthers this week. I think they're a little feisty, but let's see. I probably have him in the top 20 still. No, he's down to 24. I am corrected. Yeah, 24 and then 37 for Hubbard. So yeah, that looks like that's around the consensus too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I have Dowdle right there, right at like RB24.
Oh yeah, so actually we're technically higher on him. I'm looking at consensus. He's 28. So
consensus Tuesday morning's always drunk. I don't really compare to that.
True.
But compared to where I typically have Dowdle, it's been a while. I did have him around here. That first, it was the game after the bye week, right, where Hubbard had mixed in, shit ton the week before, and I was like, we don't know what's going on. Since then, Dowdle he kind of reclaimed that workhorse role, but Chuba's still mixing in enough to be pain in the ass for anybody that has Dowdle. So this is the lowest I've been on Dowdle, since that week at least.
Yeah, no, it's tough to trust him. I mean, just because I think Hubbard's still a good bet for that passing game works, which just kind of complicates matters.
JJ McCarthy has been officially ruled out, by the way.
Okay, yeah, I have Brosmer in there, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, sheesh, what a roller coaster for the Vikings at quarterback this year.
See, not a week where there's like a clear fade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm looking. I think according to my ranks, it's probably Aaron Jones, but I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Mason's
Hunt,
up in
I
the
guess
air.
too. Yeah, that's actually. I guess Kareem Hunt. I'll talk. All right, I'm going on Kareem Hunt. Just wanted to kind of bring him up because he's a guy that I think people were starting for a while there, and now these last couple of games, I think you pointed out like a couple games ago, it was Isaiah Pacheco kind of took over that lead role, did absolutely nothing, but still I think is notable because just looking at my like expected touchdown model, Pacheco is finally starting to pop over Hunt, and that's worrisome because that's all Hunt really gives you. So like I just think Hunt is like a non-entity this week going up against Denver. I know Kansas City, I'll probably give a better effort. It was bad against the Titans, but I mean Hunt, just got tackled it's like the everlasting image of the Chiefs' decline now is just like Hunt getting just slammed in the end zone by Jeffrey Simmons, no blocking whatsoever. They're still holding like this offense still is, probably going to be the worst offense of week 17, given the quarterback situation and the still receivers out. So yeah, I think Hunt is completely off the radar. Aaron Jones, I'm low on too, but that's all dependent on like who goes. If he goes and Mason doesn't, then I think he's in a good spot. I know he had a big workload last week, but not a great matchup for Detroit most weeks. I know Hunt, Gainwell and Warren just kept going 45-yard runs, but I think this Viking O-line mixed with Brosmer, mixed with the point total, not loving anyone on that offense this week. But it's dependent on if Mason sits. I think Jones will be much more acceptable than if he goes. Running back prop.
Yeah, let's go with Kenneth Gainwell here, who has been unbelievable. You're going to have to tell Stuckey. He tweeted out, since when was Kenneth Gainwell the best player in the league? Right. Tell him I said 2 weeks ago. So for 2 weeks now, he's been the best player. But last week, I was high on him. He ended up being my RB21, which is like plus 5 over ECR. But this is an interesting spot because he's facing, the Browns, which has been a matchup we've kind of avoided earlier in the season. But they've been struggling against backs lately. So I'm not as worried about this matchup. Kind of want to hear your thoughts on this matchup overall and where you have him projected for just total. When it comes to Gainwell, we got to do total yards. So total rushing and receiving yards against the Browns here. But I'm gonna go with over under 62.5.
I got it at 62. Man.
Oh boy.
Yeah. This is an interesting matchup. I think the Browns could be a little bit feisty here, divisional matchup in Cleveland. Bad, probably some weather late in the year. Pittsburgh. What is Pittsburgh's situation now? Their playoff situation? Like they're a game ahead of Baltimore now. 2 games.
Yeah, that Ravens loss was huge. So they're 2 games up.
They didn't clinch technically though, right?
No, they didn't clinch. They certainly control their own destiny though. So
they win, that Ravens game's meaningless next week.
Yep.
If they lose, they're playing for the division next week. Yeah. So this is one of those spots where you love to fade because you love to fade the team that's playing for something it's kind of counterintuitive. So I think the Steelers could struggle here a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I gotta go under just because I do have it at 62 on the average, which means the median's a little lower. It's like he's just so good in the pass game too. But it could be a spot where, I know I do expect them to trail more than usual, but just given the situation, I do think they try to keep the ball on the ground here. And that usage has kind of gone up and down. And they also had Johnson inactive last week. Wonder if I guess he'll be back active with probably be a run heavy script. But Hayward is stealing some of those short yardage carries, and so are the tight ends. So I'll go under just because I don't know where I have him like 8 carries. I don't know exactly where he's going to be in the run game. And this might not be like a huge receiving type of yet. But that's a good line because I have it 62 exactly.
Yeah, there's also the element of DK's out and Calvin Austin's iffy.
That,
so it's like they might have to use him even more. And if you think about it, like Warren, all those 45-yard touchdown runs wiped out potential plays for Gainwell along the way. So a lot of moving pieces here. But I think he's a guy that we can kind of treat as like a low end RB2 this week, which is crazy with Warren playing well as at the same time.
Yeah, I have him RB26 and Warren 21. So I have it's they're both right there, but you're right. I might have to increase their projected rush rate with Metcalf out because I don't know how. Who are they gonna throw to? Like Thielen and MVS? Like
MVS. Roman Wilson might be active for
I have him in. Yeah, but still, that's a
14 tight ends that they have too. Just mix them in more.
Yeah, it's going to be a big backs and tight ends game. That was good on their offense. They held off the Lions last week, so now they are in this spot. Yeah, I think they'll lean on those backs and tight ends again. So it might end up being over this by the end of the week, but I'll still go under here just because that's where I have it. All right, wide receiver top 5 week number 17. We got.
I got Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, JSN, Amon-Ra, and CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Puka is finally taking over for JSN. So Puka, JSN, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, and Chris Olave, baby. Chris Olave. Woo! Yeah, didn't think I'd see him here this season, but good on him. I was really scared that he was going to get like a concussion and just like end his career. I think he talked about that, but yeah, he's been excellent. Who we high on for week 17?
Yeah, Olave just missed my top 5. He's my wide receiver 7, so super high on him as well. But the guy I'm high on that I want to talk about is Jacoby Myers, who opens up as my wide receiver 19 against the Colts here. And he's coming off sort of a down game for him. 4 catches for 45 yards, no touchdowns. But that was, a tougher matchup against the Broncos. And that game was essentially his floor right now for the Jaguars. So, 4 catches for 45 yards being a dud is a good thing, in my opinion, because he's been really good ever since, he was traded to the Jaguars. He's been the wide receiver 16. And that's, he's got to learn the playbook. He's got to develop chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. So I would expect him to get, better and better the more integrated he is in this offense. And, this week, they're facing a Colts defense that just got, torched by Brock Purdy and the Niners, who threw for 5 touchdowns. Juwan Jennings had a big game. So with, Trevor Lawrence playing at a high level right now, this game's indoors. Don't need to worry about the weather. I think Jacoby Myers is like a legit wide receiver too, heading into finals week, who's, again, he's going to provide you a high floor. I think, he's going to have a bigger game this week, but he's just been kind of a pleasant surprise on how his season ended up, ending up in Jacksonville kind of at the same time where Trevor Lawrence is having a career year. So I think Jacoby Myers is one of those guys that's a must start this week.
Yeah, I think that whole offense is, in a really good spot this week. It's, you're like you said, indoors against a defense coming off a short week. It's just tailor made for and Liam Cohen's stock going way up because the Bucs have still been struggling, even though all their receivers are back, which is kind of surprising. I think. I thought they would play a lot better last week against the Panthers. It started off fine and just boom downhill. I am high on. I'm high on a couple guys in that game too. Thomas and Michael Pittman. I think both of those guys. With Brian Thomas, I think the last week was kind of a predictable dud against the Denver Broncos because you figured he would kind of draw most of that Surtain coverage. So I think he's in a good spot along with Myers. Parker Washington can't go for 150 yards every game. I don't think. So yeah, I think kind of like a bounce back spot for both of those guys. And it was Pittman. He's kind of been that top target all year for the Colts. And, now that we know Rivers is not just completely incapable of throwing the football, I think Pittman is in a good spot back at home here against Jacksonville. So I like him as well to bounce back here. And Juwan Jennings also, he's like inching towards my top 12, depending on if George Kittle misses, he would he probably would be right there in that top 12, right or right outside it. So yeah, like Jennings as well. Who are we low on for week 17 at wide receiver?
I'm low on Emeka Egbuka against the Dolphins, and I think last week I had mentioned I was down on him and made a bigger point as well in my tiers piece that sometimes the market just tends to look at production when it comes to younger players and not really take into account when they might be playing closer to their ceiling or floor when it comes to usage. But with Egbuka, I think he's a perfect example of that because, he was, arguably the top wide receiver from this year's class, but he landed in, crowded wide receiver room with the Bucs. But, he had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan all out at the same time for multiple weeks. So he was, a legit wide receiver 1 over that time. And then people are like wondering why he's fallen off. Well, it's because everybody's healthy. And even Jalen McMillan being back has really impacted his playing time, which is kind of crazy to me because, last week we saw Ibuka's routes run rate drop to 50%. McMillan was ahead of him at 63%. So he did, Ibuka had a catch for 40 yards. He's still a very talented rookie, but it's really hard to trust him now with everybody healthy. And kind of like you mentioned, the Bucs, I don't know what they're doing. Everybody's healthy, but they had a really extreme run heavy approach last week, just pounding Bucky Irving for, minimal gains for some reason. But, Ibuka's all the way down to wide receiver 46 for me. So he's one of those players where he probably helped you get to the finals because, he was wide receiver 8 overall for the first 10 weeks of the season. But you just have to consider the context of that, where just his usage is going to be much, much lower with everybody healthy. So Ibuka is probably a sit in most leagues for me, despite being very talented, but just really hard to trust him this week in a must-win type game.
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 52, so I'm right there, right there with you. I mean, it's there's just not as much production to go around there for that Bucks offense as you would think. I mean, I thought they would be more efficient. Maybe Baker's hurt. I mean, I know he got banged up earlier in the year, and he wasn't scrambling for a while, and then it kind of looked like it was going to return to normal for a week. But yeah, I wonder if it's got to be something like that, because there's no other reason why he would be dropping off this much. And why they would go so run heavy.
Some of his throws have looked really bad, where he has no pressure, no reason for it to be that way. So he could be just playing through something that we don't know about. But yeah, he's looked off for quite some time now.
I'm on Khalil Shakir this week. Just a guy that I tend to avoid against defenses that are man heavier in nature. I think the Eagles do qualify as one of those teams. They're one of the most man heavy teams in the league. And Shakir, it's kind of been all over the place with him in terms of the routes run rate, but Buffalo's just really focusing in on their tight ends, their running backs most weeks. And this could be another one of those matchups. Dalton Kincaid did absolutely nothing last week. I was on the injury report, then he ended up playing, but Buffalo is always weird with guys with injuries, so I think he could bounce back. So Shakir, I mean, his route rate dropped to, I think it was 60%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right
somewhere in that range. Yeah, so it's sometimes he doesn't get those 1-1 personnel snaps, and 2 of the last 3 weeks he's been under 65% route rate, so less than 2/3 of the pass snaps for Shakir. So that's just going to lead to kind of very volatile production in a game against the Eagles, where they'll probably want to run, and they'll probably just continue to rely on their backs and tight ends. Shakir, I think he's just borderline top 40 this week. May end up dropping even lower. And Buffalo, I mean, I think they're just lost confidence, and every week they're just a new set of receivers. But Shakir's been the constant, but just not a good matchup for him in this spot. Wide receiver prop. Thinking about Ibuka, let's see who else. Oh, let's go with Stephon Diggs. Actually, he's a tough projection just because his routes run rate really has just been all over the place this year. We know he was managing an injury, popped off for the big game in last week, but now you're 13.5-point favorites at the Jets. So curious as to where you have Diggs. I'm going to go with a receiving yardage line of 44.5.
Let's see. Yeah, I have him right around there, but Booty is probably closer. Booty's up in the air right now is all I got to say. So I think that's going to be a huge spike in, Kyle Williams usage, who, has looked pretty good, but I think Diggs is going to see a bump. So yeah, I'll take over. I think that's a good line, but yeah, just with the uncertainty with Booty, and Diggs had an 80% routes run rate last week, so I'll take his over here.
Yeah, it's just tough to project because his routes run rate kind of fluctuates, and it's never really at the level of a true number one receiver, but it 80% is usually good enough to lead the Patriots, which is really all that matters if you're just distributing, the usage of May, who is our quarterback one this week. So a lot of moving parts, but I have him over that as well. So yeah, you took overs on both of mine. I'm not pleased with that.
And Matt Collins could be a wide receiver 3 this week, kind of a sneaky wide receiver 3 if Booty's out, especially. But yeah, he's been pretty low key good this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, few years now, he's always a guy you kind of write off, and then he ends up with a starting job and fairly productive. I mean, it was that year against with the Raiders, he was pretty good too.
Yep.
And then I guess he's back with McDaniels, so maybe it's just a Josh McDaniels thing. But I mean, man, Patriots are looking good. All right, tight end.
Yeah, so I'm just assuming Kittle's out just to spice up my top 5. So I'm going with Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Kyle Pitts, Colby Parkinson, and Harold Fannin Jr.
That's certainly a spicy top five. I haven't ruled Kittle out, but I did knock him. I kind of put him like 50-50, so I got him splitting with Tonjes and Farrell, so he's out of my top five as well. So I got McBride, Bowers, Harold Fannin, number 3, because why not? Kyle Pitts, number 4, because why not? And then Juwan Johnson, baby.
Oh,
wow. Didn't think I'd see him here. Yeah, this would be a fun week if Kittle missed, because I have Juwan Johnson and then Tyler Warren's climbing back up because Rivers, I guess, was decent.
Yep.
And then Brenton Strange is in the mix. So, and then we'll see what happens with like the Bears receivers. I think Loveland could end up popping, but yeah, it's kind of a crowded tight end week though. So we should talk about some of these guys. Who are you high on?
Well, yeah, it sounds like we're both high on Juwan Johnson because he's inside my top 10 as well against the Titans. But, he was essentially playing every snap earlier in the season, and he was like an every week tight end one for us during that stretch. But, he's cooled off a bit just with everyone healthy, but he's still putting up solid numbers. And last week, 8 catches, 89 yards. I already mentioned the Saints went with just an extreme pass-heavy approach. So I think, if Alvin Kamara's out again this week, they might stick with that. Even if Kamara's back, they might stick with that because Tyler Shuck's playing at a high level right now. But, Foster Moreau's already been ruled out, so we could see Juwan get an uptick in at least playing time when it comes to his routes run rate. And outside of Chris Olave, no one's really commanding targets in this offense, so it's just funneling them to Olave and Juwan right now. So, he opens up the week as my tight end 9.
Yeah, baby. Juwan Johnson coming on strong down the stretch. Shuck looking good. Love it. I am high on, let's see. Okay. I'm high on Tyler Warren as well as Juwan. And Warren, it's just a matter of, I think everyone was really low on this Colts passing game, which, Rivers threw for 120 yards in his first start, so you can't really blame people. But I do think that the Colts offense at least showed that they can be functional here. And now, at home against Jacksonville, I think it's a good spot. Jacksonville tends to play a lot of zone defense. So I think, especially with Pierce kind of going off and at least making them respect the deep ball, I think Warren is in a good spot to be productive here. And I still like the fact that he can, get some, goal line rush attempts and things like that. If it's not Taylor, Rivers not really as much of a threat there as a guy like Daniel Jones was. So Tyler Warren, trending back upward this week for me. Who are we low on at tight end?
I'm low on Travis Kelce, who opens up as my tight end 24. Not what you're hoping for if you drafted him inside the top 10. I called that the frozen punt here anyway, so I don't know why you would have been doing that. But, his value obviously took a massive hit once Patrick Mahomes went down with the torn ACL. But now Gardner Minshew is also out for the season with an injury. And Kelce, he hit rock bottom last week, 1 catch for 6 yards. Now it's going to be either Chris Oladokun or Shane Buechele under center this week. So, things are pretty rough in KC. And, the Broncos have been giving up some pretty good games to tight end. So this isn't, a matchup you got to avoid. But, this is just a shit show when it comes to Kelce. And you're heading into finals week. There's so many other better tight ends out there potentially that I wouldn't lean on him. He's my tight end 24 to open the week. But I am projecting, Rashee Rice to return. So Rice could easily be held out this week, and then Kelce's rank will shoot up a bit. But I don't think he's going to be inside my top 12 this week either way, just given the quarterback uncertainty and just, they're out of playoff contention. Maybe week 18, could be his last game ever. Maybe they just spam him with targets then. But this week, I'm certainly low on him.
Yeah, I don't think he'll shoot up because I got those guys all back, like not fully back, but I kind of have them all the Chiefs receivers just splitting everything on 50-50-ish. Rice, I have more 75% if he's back. It's still Kelce's still my tight end 18. And if I dropped him to out, it still doesn't really go up that much. He'll be borderline top 15 type tight end. But yeah, it's rough. It's rough for Kelsey. I mean, that Chiefs team is it's like a they're just feeling like these preseason ish rosters. Like I was saying, when I was writing up the game last week, this would probably be Titans favored if last week if it was if they didn't have reputation. So yeah, it's you don't want to go off Kelsey's reputation in this in this spot. I'm on Mark Andrews too. Been trying to hold out for him, but with this Lamar Jackson uncertainty and Green Bay still one of the better defenses in the league, and Andrews and Isaiah Likely were last 2 weeks. They've been right around the same route participation rate, right around 55%. That is a downtick for Mark Andrews, who usually is in around the 70-ish percent range. So that's concerning. I think they'll probably want to lean on the run game either way here. And we've seen Likely cardio king it a couple weeks in a row, I think. So Andrews could easily end up doing that. So yeah, just low on this Baltimore passing game. It's just really hard to trust anybody, for them with the quarterback situation. Even with Lamar in there, they've still kind of been up and down. So Andrews him and Kelsey, I think we started the season kind of iffy on them. Like, what the hell do you do with these guys in that mid range? And it started to trend up mid-season, and then now we're right back here where it's like, all right, probably feel better about Tyler Warren than both of them again. Here we are. Tight end prop. Who we got?
Let's go with Jake Ferguson here, who was the tight end 1 overall after the first 7 weeks of the season. But similar to kind of my point with Ibuka, context matters because 3 of those games, right? 3 or 4 of them, CeeDee Lamb was out. So naturally, Ferguson's target rate was going to go up quite a bit, but he's cooled off a lot since then. And I have him right around the cusp of, a sit-start tight end. So curious kind of where you have him projected and more importantly, where his receiving yard projection is for you. But I'm going to go with, and he's facing the Commanders this week. I'm going to go with 35.5 as my prop.
Ooh, actually, that's a good line. I have him right there. There's just not a lot of tight ends I feel good about. So he's actually still inside my top 10. A good matchup for him. So yeah, I'm going to go over. I do think Pickens is, like you said, trying to chase those incentives, but it's just one of these weeks where there's a lot of tight ends in this glut. And so I do have him ranked high, but yeah, as far as his matchup, Flanoy, Kavontae Turpin, 2 guys that kind of fill that void. Normally as, potential number 3 targets are iffy to go. And then Javonte Williams also has on the injury report with that neck issue. And it kind of led to a big downtick in passing game production for him. So I still have Ferguson kind of taking that third spot behind Lamb and Pickens here. So yeah, having about 4.5 catches for 40 yards. So no real efficiency, but yeah, I'm gonna go over here. I just think this Washington defense is bad enough that we can trust them.
Yeah, I could go either way on this one. But so when it comes to, let's say you have him and you have access to Juwan Johnson, who are you starting in the finals?
I have Johnson number 5, so still Johnson. But
it's crazy. I think it's you got to go Johnson. Maybe I can't think of even if Kamara's active, I think you still got to go Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming into the year. I mean, you would have probably said Johnson anyway, right? I mean, I guess both of them were a little bit off the radar compared to what they produced. But I have Johnson ahead. I mean, and the thing with Dallas is Dak is already projected he's my QB6, so I don't really see the ranks changing a ton because Kamara's not really a touchdown guy for New Orleans anyway, so it's not like it would influence the Johnson touchdown projection much if we change the running back. So it's a close call, but I think that Johnson.
And that's kind of my point when it comes to avoiding the frozen punt here at tight end is people tend to cling onto stints from tight ends. People still remember he was the tight end 1 after week 7 or whatever. So people probably hang on to him longer than they probably should. So I just think when it comes to tight end, unless you have like Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and George Kittle, you kind of have to just be willing to go with the flow. And the flow is leading us to Juwan Johnson this week.
Yeah, and Ferguson's my tight end 7, so I'm high on him too. Actually, because I still don't know exactly what to do. Like Parkinson, where do you have
Parkinson?
As high. He's like my tight end 10. It's hard to I gotta, but I'll like check the rankings on that one, because the thing with the Rams is there's like you got to be careful when you're projecting them because of their like extreme heavy 1-3 usage. So have you seen the updated splits? Like, did they use it more on third down again? That's really the thing.
Are you projecting Devontae to play at all?
No, I'm still having, I heard he was going to be kind of like on the doubtful side. So that's why Parkinson would drop to like, probably outside the top 15, honestly, because it's just, you have Ferguson there too. And it's really just a matter of like, you know, the splits can kind of change depending on like if the Rams get into like a heavy 1-2 like leading game script, like it could affect Parkinson a little bit, because I think it's 1-2 where it's Allen and Ferguson, and then Parkinson plays most of the third downs over Ferguson. Ferguson plays most of the third downs over Parkinson. So like depending on the splits, it could kind of change. So he's like a volatile projection, even though he's been so good. So yeah, that's I gotta kind of refine that. But right now he's my tight end 10. So yeah, like him, Brenton Strange is 11. So there's a lot of guys kind of on that borderline.
Yeah.
And then Loveland depends on what happens with Dunze and Burden. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in the ranks. But I also noticed I'm a little bit lower on Dallas Goedert and Dalton Schultz this week just because of the matchup. So
yeah, I was getting like, I still have Ferguson inside my top 12, but Schultz is somebody that's been inside my top 10 for a few weeks now. Mm-hmm. And he's down to tight end 16. So there's so many guys in the sit start range that you just got to wait as long as possible for our ranks to update, for news to happen, things like that to like actually lock in who your tight end is going to be this week. Yeah,
and then Taysom Hill is a guy like a kind of a tough projection too, because he could do nothing or with his like 10 carries, but then he could also like throw a touchdown, and so yeah, he's another one that might move up, but I still have him pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, check the ranks. Tight end, tough week, but I mean, hopefully you have been streaming, because yeah, like we said, if you didn't have a McBride, even Bowers was down for like half the year, just. So yeah, hopefully you have been streaming and it's worked out. But that's gonna do it for our week 17 projections pod here on the Fantasy Flex. Again, make sure you check out fantasylabs.com for our updated rankings. That's where we'll kind of make all these changes. We're recording this early in the week to make sure we get it out. But you can use code FLEX20 for $20 off a Fantasy Lab subscription if you don't have one already. Koerner's on X at the _odds maker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Happy holidays, and no waivers pod this week. So of course, check out the rankings and things for that as well. And let's get this money and enjoy the holidays.